we got it mounted up. What we're going to do is finish it. I put some epoxy sculpt on here around the shrunken areas of the nose. You'll get that shrinking, so you build them back up and make it look real full. And around the eyes, I also put some epoxy sculpt. I used to use wax, but this holds better. It won't fall out on you as much if it shrinks and swells. And then I put this epoxy sculpt in here. I go inside the nose and do deep inside the nose. I like my nostrils to be deep. Let's see if we can get this up here a little bit. Maybe you can see right in there. I'll see if I can zoom this in. But anyway, I like that nostril to be nice and deep. Then I take some of this epoxy sculpt, put in there, use a modeling tool to go ahead and get it in there, and then take a wet Q-tip, and that'll smooth that right out in there, and it'll look like the inner nostril. And also, I'll move this around a little bit, excuse me. On the eye, you'll also see right here, I've got some epoxy sculpt right there. But what I do is I take my airbrush, or you can use a paintbrush. What I do is I darken up that epoxy sculpt. If you can darken that up a little bit, it really helps as far as the next layer that I put on. I use two colors here. You can use white and black, white and brown, or whatever, but I use black to darken this up. And what that does, that'll let my burnt umbers. It won't. If I just put burnt umber on first, the epoxy sculpt will show through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to. You can see what I'm doing there. Any place there's epoxy sculpt, I'll go ahead and paint with black. You can see that epoxy sculpt right there. Well, I'm going to go ahead and paint that with black. Just go ahead and touch it up. Get that in the bottom lip. I made the bottom lip also. Now I'm going to show you that before I paint it. Let's see where we're at here. Okay, you can see that nose right there. You see the nose right here. And I built this bottom lip up with epoxy sculpt too, because that really shrinks up. And when you tuck that in, it'll shrink. So I build that up. And what I do is I'll just go ahead and give that a little coat of, I'll give that a coat of black also. If you get it on the hair, you can clean that up with some paint thinner or acetone. And then what I do is I dust the inside of the nose with this too. Okay. Now you can only, I'm going to put a little more black right on this eye here. The inside of the nose, the bottom lip. Now we're going to let that dry, and what we're going to do is the inside of the ear. What I found that works best on a deer, on the inside of its ear, the color I use is what I call an antique white. And shake up your bottle, make sure it's mixed. And what it's kind of like a real light tan, real light tan. And you can see that this color here will go with it. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take this antique white and just do a little bit inside the nose. I just did lighten up the inside, a little depth, and kind of like if you're looking at it inside a real deer's nose, it isn't real black all the way through. It's just a little bit of white. Now we got his ears. Sometimes you have to give the ears more than one coat, but I think I'm going to be good with this. You can get a pretty good airbrush if you're thinking about doing hobby taxidermist or whatever. You can get a pretty good airbrush for about $50. Just get a single stage airbrush. That'll work out just fine to start with. I knew when I started out I was going to do this for a living, so I went ahead and got some good stuff. And okay, now your eyes. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and, you see it's not gray anymore. What I usually use in a natural epoxy sculpt, I use burnt umber. I think burnt umber is a pretty good color for this stuff. And what I do, I'll give it a good coat. What I'll do is I'll go into tear duct here and just kind of lightly mist everything. And don't worry about getting it on the eyeball, because that isn't going to hurt a thing. Because what I do is I take a knife and I scrape that eyeball off. And if you're using glass eyed like I use, that knife just glides right over it and takes it right off. But anyway, you can see how that kind of darkened up that eye. You don't see that black, you just kind of see a dark umber color, and that's kind of a dark brown. And that's what we'll do to that. And then, when this dries, I'll show you what I do to the nose here. Okay? Let's see if we can get down here to the nose. The bigger animal, say an elk or something, you'd use a bigger brush, but I got a kind of a small sized brush here. And what I do is I'll go ahead and take my Mod Podge and I just go over the nose. And what I do is I dimple that nose. And that'll give it a real life texture. You see how you can do that? And you just do your whole nose like that. And I'll come back. And also, I'll do the nose right along in here. You just put a little, when that dries, you just put a little drop. Oh, as many as you can get in there. And what that'll do is that'll simulate eyelashes, a little eyelash, well, the eyelash goes into the eyelid. You do that on both sides and that'll give you a realistic look on that. I'm going to show you this nose here. You see how it's dimpled all along here? What I'll do is after that dries, I'll give that a good coat of Mod Podge, the whole nose and lips. And then what I'll do is I'll come along the eye here and I'll put little eyelashes on here. And then if you want, just take a real fine brush and take and go right around the whole eye, right where it meets the eyeball, and you can make that look very realistic. But now for a commercial mount like this, what I do is I just paint the nose black. Most deer noses are black. They have a little different color down here, but for your commercial mounts and just regular mounts, just go with black. Now you can blend those if you're doing a show mount, or if you really want to get fancy, take it to a show or whatever. You can use different colors right in here. You got to get a reference because sometimes they're a lot different. You can go all the way from cream to a red color for a little ways up the lips. So, but anyway, for this purpose, for just a general mount, this is going to be pretty good. And you can see that this is going to be a nice mount. I mean, this is good. You know, don't second guess yourself on some of your stuff. You know, your early stuff isn't going to be too good. There's just, you'll look back on some of your earlier work and go, oh my God, I did that. Well, you get better as you do things. And what we're going to do is, you'll see here where this paint is kind of matted the ears. We'll take a brush and we'll brush that out. And maybe give it another coat of this antique white in here. Make sure the nose is done. I'm going to leave this hang here. We're going to let this dry, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what I'm going to do here with this. Okay? But anyway, that's going to be a good looking deer. I'll show you how we clean up the eyes. What I do sometimes, and I'll do it right now, is I'll take kind of a wet Q-tip. You can get some of this extra stuff off of here, but be careful you don't brush up against your eyelid and that where you have it. But you'll have some stuff on there. Make sure that's all cleaned up before this deer goes out of the shop. But anyway, this girl will love this deer. It's the biggest one she's got with a bow, and it's really going to turn out nice.